It's my pleasure to be with all of you. So I'm going to talk to you about something that I think a lot about, and it's always a nice opportunity for me to share my thoughts, and so we're going to, again, it's just really good to be with all of you today. And really the focus of my talk is going to be on the seventh principle and how we might more fully embrace it. I'm a wildlife biologist, and I will admit that it is the principle that I hold the most deeply in my heart. Cool. So respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. No one asked me, but I would add our only one part. Nature has its own life and is separate from ours. My job for many years has been to be the voice for those who have no voice. One of the things I think baboons and chimpanzees have been trying to tell me all these years is their lives don't revolve around ours, nor should they. Nature has its own job, just as the little bear and the shrew and all of the animals in the forest. And not only should we let them do their jobs, our survival depends on it. These jobs are often referred to as ecosystem services, which are any positive benefit that wildlife or ecosystems provide to people. The benefits can be direct or indirect, small or large. Next. There are 4 types of ecosystem services: provisioning, regulating, cultural, and supporting services. Provisioning is when people are asked to identify a service provided by nature. Most think of food. Fruits, vegetables, trees, fish, and livestock are available to us as direct products of ecosystems. A provisioning service is any type of benefit that people can be extracted from nature, along with food. Other types of provisioning services include drinking water, timber, wood fuel, natural gas, oil, plants that can be made into clothing and other materials, and medicinal benefits. Regulating services. Ecosystems provide many of the basic services that make life possible for people. Plants clean the air and filter water. Bacteria decomposes waste. Bees pollinate flowers. And tree roots hold soil in place to prevent erosion. All these processes work together to make ecosystems clean, sustainable, functional, and resilient to change. A regulating service is the benefit provided by the ecosystem processes that moderate natural phenomenon. Regulating services include pollination, decomposition, water purification, erosion and flood control, carbon storage, and climate regulation. Cultural services. As we interact and alter nature, the natural world has in turn altered us. It has guided our cultural, intellectual, and social development by being a constant force in our lives. I know it has in mine. The importance of ecosystems to the human mind can be traced back to the beginnings of mankind, with ancient civilizations drawing pictures of animals, plants, and weather patterns on cave walls. A cultural service is a non-material benefit that contributes to the development and cultural advancements of people, including how ecosystems play a role in local, national, and global cultures, the building of knowledge, the spreading of ideas, creativity born from interactions with nature, such as music, art, and architecture, and recreation are cultural services. Supporting services. The natural world provides so many services, sometimes we overlook the most fundamental. Ecosystems themselves couldn't be sustained without the consistency of underlying natural processes, such as photosynthesis, nutrient cycling, the creation of soils, and the water cycle. These processes allow the earth to sustain basic life forms, let alone while ecosystems and people Without supporting services, provisional, regulating, and cultural services would not exist. So I previously mentioned that animals have jobs, and I talked about it in the story this morning. What exactly am I talking about? And so I want to talk to you about a few examples. Squirrels. Squirrels are considered the gardeners of the planet. Did you know that one squirrel can bury as many as 10,000 acorns per year? While squirrels eat some of these acorns, they store and fail to recover up to 74% of them. Research has shown that acorns germinate better when they are handled by squirrels and even half-eaten. This makes squirrels one of the most important animals for oak regeneration. So, if you're feeding squirrels, you're reducing the number of acorns they process. In short, if you're feeding them, directly or indirectly, you're taking away their job. Next. Birds. Birds are incredibly important for seed dispersal, pest control, pollination. They prey on and are the prey for other species, are scavengers and ecosystem engineers. Did you know that a hummingbird can visit and pollinate more than 1,000 flowers per day? Daily, they consume their weight in nectar. Instead of hummingbird feeders, why not plant native flowering plants, which they love? Bats. Bats are also important seed dispersers, pollinators. They eat a ton of insects and are nutrient recyclers. How exactly do they do this, you ask? Bats recycle nutrients through their guano. Sadly, more than 1/3 of all bats are threatened or are data poor. I know many of you all have been to Bracken Cave Preserve. It is the home of the largest bat colony in Texas, housing more than 1 million Mexican free-tailed bats. It's estimated that collectively they consume 220 tons of insects per night. Each bat is capable of eating 1,000 insects per hour. Wow. Beavers are found in northeastern part of Texas, and no other creature besides humans controls its environment as completely as the beaver. They play an important role in mitigating the effects of climate change. Dams help preserve water by holding them in place and keeping bodies of water from drying up or running off. And Lord, we need that. Beavers are also important to habitats in creating a haven for biodiversity. They also help prevent forest fires by keeping soil moist and vegetation alive. And what about non-human primates? I include them because they are relevant. They're not relevant to Texas, but because I love them. And I see it as my job to advocate for them. Instead of a baboon, you could be thinking of also like a raccoon. Provisioning provokes human-wildlife conflict, which is what I work on. As urban-dwelling primates are often involved in aggressive encounters with humans over resources, leading to negative consequences for both parties involved. Preventing or curbing provisioning is not an easy task, as feeding wild animals is a socio-cultural tradition across much of South and Southeastern Asia, including India. I am on an international committee that strongly cautions people against feeding primates and educating them about the ill effects of provisioning. When we draw intentionally or unintentionally wildlife into urban areas, they risk injury from dogs, road accidents. Their physiology can actually change such that they mature earlier, have offspring at an earlier age, and for a longer period of time. This could be advantageous for rare and endangered species, but what about an abundant species like feral hogs? So these are some of recommendations from the USDA. Do not encourage wildlife by feeding them or leaving food for them. Don't allow bird food to accumulate on the ground. Don't place food scraps in gardens or compost bins, and use a closed compost bin. Keep pet food and water containers indoors, especially at night. If you have ripe trees, harvest or dispose of fruit when it's ripe. Use metal or durable plastic lids containing containers with tight-fitting lids. Enjoy viewing wildlife at a distance. Respect their space, and remember they are wild animals and they should stay wild. I mentioned bird feeding, and I realize that these are fighting words. But here's what the Fish and Wildlife has to say. Drawing birds into close contact on shared surfaces makes it easy for them to spread bacteria like Salmonella and E. coli. Luring them to the same place on a predictable schedule makes them more vulnerable to predators like cats and hawks. Some birds may accidentally smash into glass windows near feeders, though windows in tall buildings are greater collision hazards. Further, feeding changes their behavior, in particular, their patterns of movement, as well as it lowers egg production and hatching success. With wild bird numbers down by almost 1/3 since 1970, according to research in the journal Science, we don't want to add to these risks. How can we respect and help wildlife and ecosystems, which also helps humans? One expert says, it's hard to ecologically justify removing native habitat to create a house and a lawn, and then putting up feeders filled with birdseed. It's ironic, really. Especially, he says, because it takes hundreds of thousands more acres of ground-up prairie and swampland to produce that birdseed. Instead, uproot your lawn and plant very seedy things that birds love, like wingstem and perennial sunflowers. Winter sparrows and cardinals work over seeds from asters, goldenrods, and brown-eyed Susans. Fruit lovers like catbirds, thrashers, and mockingbirds feed upon chokeberry, sumac, and spicebush. These types of gardens also offer birds lots of insects and nesting cover. And this is kind of what this guy, how he's transformed his lawn into sort of a haven for wildlife. So we are a people of deeds, not creeds. We can live the seventh principle by lots of ways. And what I like for people to tell me, give me ideas. I don't want someone just to say, stop doing this. I want them to tell me what they could do. So these are just some suggestions. By reducing light pollution at night, like right now, it's a major migratory time for birds. And so if you have lights, try to turn them off at night, because that can kind of distract them in their journey. And I know many of you, you've planted pollination gardens. Think about replacing your lawn. Donate money and volunteer with organizations that restore forests, grasslands, and coastal ecosystems. Remove invasive plant species. Choose natural cleansers and pest control and organic fertilizers instead of harmful chemicals. Pick up trash. Use reusable cloth bags and not single-use plastic. And when we were here, I'm like looking at all of you and buying these little cloth bags that our kiddos made and just introducing this idea. It's been years ago, and so I know that you all have been doing that, so I'm preaching to the choir. And the last is just to become a citizen scientist, and I'm going to come back to this in a minute. So in conclusion, for as long as I've known you all, you have been living the seventh principle. You conserve and protect waters, which are the heart of New Braunfels. You're master naturalists, you're master gardeners, members of the Native Plant Society. You volunteer your time and talent and treasures in a myriad of ways. As a board member at UBARU, I want to invite you to help us be good land stewards. Twice a year, we inventory the plants, birds, and animals that call UBARU home, which is also your home. Our next Bio Blitz will be April 20th of next year, and I know that's a long way off, but I have the chance, and so I want to welcome you to come and be a citizen scientist. Last weekend, we held our fall Bio Blitz. It was our 4th. I'm beginning to see patterns and think over time this information will be beneficial to our mission to be good land stewards. Our seventh principle calls us to be stewards of the earth and to allow animals to play their roles. As UUs, we are grateful and embrace the gift of an interconnected life. Thank you.